We got the Bills, Bears, Colts, and Raiders on a bye this week. So who do we start at quarterback? Not that those guys had any studs at quarterback. But who do we start? Who do we sit this week? That's why I'm here. But before that, what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you enjoy the video and become a bro and subscribe. I got a 7-round 2020 mock draft coming out next week. 7 rounds, and I'm including compensatory picks. So it's going to be huge. It's going to highlight a lot of different prospects. So, hey, come check that out. It'll be fun. I'll also be projecting the draft order. So, whatever, I'll have the records of or where I think your team's going to finish. So, come and hate on that. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about stardom, sit 'em. We're going to start with the Thursday night game. We got the New York Football Giants against the Patriots. Daniel Jones, guess what? I don't like him in this matchup. He faces a banger of a defense there in New England. They're first against opposing quarterbacks. But Tom Brady, though, he's definitely a start this week. They're 26 against opposing quarterbacks as far as the Giants. And I feel like, Tom Brady is basically a start for the remainder of the year, the way that offense is playing. Now let's talk about Washington versus Miami in a game where you really shouldn't be starting anybody. Who has Colt McCoy? Who has Josh Rosen on their roster? Stop. But if you do, I would go with Colt McCoy. The Dolphins are terrible against opposing quarterbacks, but I don't know why you would be so desperate to start one of these guys. Next, we got the Panthers versus the Buccaneers in a this is going to be an interesting rematch. Cam Newton wasn't 100%, and Kyle Allen looks like he is really taking the reins of this offense. Granted, Christian McCaffrey has been a utter monster, but it's a good matchup for Kyle Allen, who's kind of dudded the past 2 weeks. The Bucs are 28th against opposing quarterbacks, so I think Kyle Allen is a low floor, low ceiling type of guy. Don't expect much. Don't expect like a 20 or 30 point game. He might get you in that 10 to 15 range. So he's like a start if you have to. Jameis Winston, they're facing the 10th best defense when it comes to letting points to opposing quarterbacks. I don't trust Winston. No, he popped off a couple of weeks ago, but he went back to his old self. He had a lot of bad passes against the Saints, and I don't trust Jameis Winston. I can't, Jameis. It hurts too much. I can't. You hurt me. On to the next matchup. This one's a lot more fun. Seattle versus Cleveland. Baker Mayfield, man, he's a sit. The way he's been playing, he is a sit. He's been a huge bust along with that offense outside of Nick Chubb. Yeah, I wouldn't touch Baker Mayfield. But Russell Wilson has been pleasantly great. He has been very good. He faces the 18th best defense when it comes to guarding opposing quarterbacks. So they're kind of middle of the pack. So I think Russell Wilson, he's a fine start this week. Houston versus Kansas City. Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, they are both starts. And Patrick Mahomes has probably played his worst football these past 2 weeks, and he still scored over 20 points in both those outings. Houston has a terrible pass defense. And granted, I know Mahomes is kind of hurt the ankle. He kind of re-hurt it against the Colts, but he should be fine. He should come out and just ball out. This should be a good week for them to be like, hey, remember when we were awesome on offense? Let's go back to being that. John Watson, though, he's kind of been weird. He's facing the right defense. They're the Chiefs. They're 19th, so they're kind of a little worse than middle of the pack. But he's got such huge upside. You have to start him. Philadelphia versus Minnesota. Carson Wentz, man, he faces a tough task against Minnesota. I won't expect much. I think Carson Wentz will be lucky to get 20 points in this game. This is a tough defense, but I think he is a start. He's a low end start, but he's a start nonetheless. Kirk Cousins, though, faces the 22nd worst defense when it comes to letting points to opposing quarterbacks. That's great. Last week, man, after that freaking tongue lashing Adam Thielen gave Kirk Cousins to the press, man, he came out and was like, no, I'm better than that. And he was. He was better than that, and I think he continues to be better than that. I think they will start to pass the ball more. Looks like they're going to utilize more of that play action, and it's a tough matchup for Dalvin Cook. The Eagles are really good against opposing running backs, and they have a really great run defense in general, so they will have to pass the ball to stay in this game. Now we got the Saints versus the Jaguars. I love both these quarterbacks. I love you. If you're a fan of the channel, you know I love Uncle Rico. I love the man, the myth, the legend, Gardner Minshew. He has scored no fewer than 19 points in a game this season. He doesn't necessarily have huge upside, but they face this 30th worst defense when it comes to giving up points to opposing quarterbacks. Granted, they've been better the last couple of weeks, but I like Gardner Minshew in this matchup. And then Teddy Bridgewater looks like he finally learned to throw the ball downfield again, man. Thank goodness, Teddy. I think he's a viable option in this game, where this game might not be too high scoring, but I think he's a decent start this week. Then we got the Bengals versus the Ravens. I know you're not. I've been saying it all year long, and you ain't gonna like it. I don't like it. Andy Dalton is not a bad start. Granted, tough matchup here against the Ravens, but he's not a bad start. He's attempted no fewer than 36 pass attempts this whole season. He's getting the volume. They need to pass to stay in games. He's not a bad start. Lamar Jackson, he's not played particularly well the last few games, but he's got such a big rushing upside, and the Bengals are terrible against. Basically, they're terrible in run defense. So Lamar Jackson is almost an always start just because of how deadly he is as a runner. Now we got San Fran versus the Rams in a very interesting matchup. Jimmy Garoppolo, he faced a tough task, but he's never been a high scoring quarterback. That's not who he is. I don't think he's a start. I don't think he's really a good start at all this season. That's not a reflection on him as a player. He's a great quarterback. At least he's been playing like a great quarterback. It's just, that's just not what this offense is. And then Jared Goff, it's really hard to start him this week. I know. He, even in his worst games, he may throw 3 picks, but he'll throw for 500 yards and maybe 2 touchdowns. I would have him as a low-end start, really. This is a very tough 49er defense. You saw what it did to Baker. Poor Baker, man. Didn't stand a chance. And we might see much of the same. But, again, I don't have enough confidence to say Goff is a sure sit. If you don't have anyone better to play, then go ahead and play Goff. Now, let's talk about something a little better. Let's talk about quarterbacks that are always must starts, and we're going to talk about Atlanta. We're going to talk about the Cardinals. Matt Ryan, he's a start. The offense goes through Matt Ryan. He's been a touchdown machine this year. That offense, I know the team's been terrible, but big reason why he has to pass the ball to keep the team in the game. Kyler Murray, he's finally shown a little bit of that run capability. I like him. He's been playing a lot better. The Falcons, they're 31st when it comes to giving up points to opposing quarterbacks. You saw what Deshaun Watson did to him last week. So he is a start. Tennessee versus Denver. You're sitting both these quarterbacks. Marcus Mariota is facing a pass defense in Denver that I've kind of underrated, but they've played very well. Marcus Mariota, honestly, I won't even roster him. He's too inconsistent, and then even at his best, he's not that great. Joe Flacco, tough test. They rely a lot more on the run game anyway, so I don't think he's a start. Dallas versus the Jets. Sam Darnold's first game back since week 1. Sit that boy, man. Sit him. Man, the Cowboys are no joke on pass defense. They've allowed what? They're 5th against opposing quarterbacks. Yeah, sit Sam Darnold. Dak Prescott, it's hard to sit Dak. It's hard to sit him. The Jets are actually pretty good against opposing quarterbacks. That pass defense isn't nearly as bad as it looks. It's really a product of the offense being so terrible. But I think Dak, he kind of goes into that low end start area. So, and plus, I don't think they're going to be behind at all in this game. So this might be a run heavy script. I just don't think anything really favors Dak in this game. Now we got the Steelers versus the Chargers. The Chargers from Los Angeles, not San Diego. I keep saying San Diego in my videos. I don't know why. I miss the San Diego Superchargers. But it looks like Mason Rudolph will be out. So until we hear otherwise, Devlin Hodges is the starter. I probably shouldn't have to say much more. Yeah, he's a sit. Phillip Rivers looked really bad. And the Steeler defense, especially the secondary, they're not that bad. Especially with the addition of Minka Fitzpatrick. Looks like it's really helped this defense. I think he kind of falls into the same category as Dak. He's a low-end start. A very low-end start. I mean, very low-end start. Now, the Monday night game, we got Detroit versus Green Bay, and let me rag on Aaron Rodgers real quick. He's had one game as a top 10 quarterback this season in fantasy, and that was against Philly. This game might come down to a shootout, but neither of these teams are good against opposing running backs. So it might be run heavy. Aaron Rodgers, they're just not utilizing Aaron Rodgers like in the past, you know. It's just a bit dangerous to start Aaron Rodgers, but I think he would be a low-end start this week, just because I think this game will be very competitive. Detroit is a much better team than a lot of people have anticipated, but oh man, you probably drafted Rodgers pretty high too, which sucks. But if you don't have anyone better, go ahead and start Aaron Rodgers. And then Matthew Stafford, tough task against this Green Bay secondary, but he has played particularly well. He's kind of, I would put him in the same boat as I would Phillip Rivers, where it's a tough matchup, but they kind of need to pass the ball to win that game. I guess I wouldn't say Phillip Rivers. It would probably be more so Jared Goff. He's in that Jared Goff predicament. So again, Matthew Stafford, low end start. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube stuff. Don't forget, 7-round mock draft coming out next week. But until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.